All right, I don't normally like to talk about the negatives to sales because I think that the sales industry is pretty amazing. However, there are some closing techniques that I have seen going wrong personally for me using them, but also in the industry. And I'd just like to give some airtime to those. So the first one is now or never. This is something that you'll see in retail departments a lot, where they say, well, it's on sale now, it won't be tomorrow. And I've seen it a lot in telecommunications where the deal is going to expire at 5 o'clock that day. What this is doing is this isn't building trust. This isn't building credibility. This isn't building anything. It's actually putting customers off. I'm not saying that you shouldn't create urgency. So there's a very different point here. Absolutely create urgency. Create the environment that the customer needs to buy by 5 o'clock, but don't use now or never. So the second one is the hard close, which is where I think a lot of us go to in our mind when we hear about closing. We go to the hard close. So if you don't buy today, you're not going to get that product. It's actually come from an accounting term, closing the books. That's where the expression also came from, is from the hard close. The books will close at 5 o'clock today, and so we need to, you need to know that. And I think that I've seen that happen still in car sales and real estate and in recruitment. The challenge with this is the customers are far too astute to this type of close. And you have more and more customers challenging this and asking one-word questions. Why? Why the book's closing at this time. And certainly inexperienced salespeople that haven't been taught to counteract that with dialogue are actually finding themselves discredited and distrusted very quickly. I'm not suggesting that you can't use the hard close, but I think it's about using it in a way that is perhaps a little bit softer and that is a bit more relational. So I hard close people all the time, but I will say to them, look, I only have a certain amount of resources within my businesses and I need to allocate them. So I'm super happy if you don't want to sign my proposal, but I kind of need to know. Can you tell me by Thursday? And they say, well, not really. And I say, well, that's totally fine, but I can't guarantee the resources when you let me know. But all's good. You can go away and go to another one of my suppliers. Look, I appreciate that sounds lackadaisical and a little bit arrogant, but I genuinely want to know if they're going to sign with us so that I can allocate the resources to the proposal and to the actual piece of work that they're looking for. And I try and explain that to them. Of course, there will always be clients out there that do not appreciate my hard close, and they don't appreciate being asked when they are going to come back with a decision. One thing I would say though is that, again, I've mentioned this a few times, that often those clients that push back on some of the things that you're asking, they're not often the clients that you want, and they wouldn't always be the easiest to work with. I have very rarely had amazing clients say to me, I'm not going to give you a timeline and I'm not going to tell you what the situation is so that you can plan for your resources. I mean, that's just completely unreasonable. So I would definitely implore you to ask the question about when things can be done and when decisions can be made. So the final one I think to avoid is the option close. This is the close where you get phone A or phone B. Choose. So this is very different, and if you can think about how this is pitched to you as a customer, if you go into a shop and you get given 2 phones and you're looking at both phones and you're considering both, this sales individual will say to you, well, you've got option A or you've got option B. And straight away, that's very confronting that you've actually only got 2 options in your phone choice. Whereas if you use the assumptive close that I previously spoke about and talk about assuming you go for A, this is what the deal would be and this is the functionality, and then or assuming you go for B, this is the this and this is the that. We're actually effectively giving you only 2 options, but we're just not being explicit with it. Closing doesn't need to be bigger than Ben-Hur. It really is to agree next steps And if you can reframe that in your mind and authentically try different closing techniques and do some training internally with your team, you will find that there's 2 or 3 ways in which closing really works for you.